Welcome, everyone. Hello. Here you are at the 14th Annual Sanibel Island Writers Conference. I'm the director, Tom DeMarchi, and I'm here with my co-director, Jason Ellick.
Hello, hello.
We're super excited that you guys decided to tune in today. This is the first time we've ever done it online. I'm kind of hoping it's the last time we have to do it online, but we spent a lot of time wondering what we were going to do this year, given the conditions of the world and the pandemic. And we thought, if it's safe, we're going to hold it in person. But it became increasingly clear that it was not safe to hold it in person. And so we decided, well, let's hold it online. And that way, anybody in the world who wants to attend can attend for free and just get a sense of what we're all about and what we do. And we're hoping that next year conditions are safe enough that we can all be back on Sanibel Island in person, hanging out together on the beach and at Big Arts. So for now, here we are. And we're thrilled that you decided to spend some time with us this weekend. We have a terrific program set up for you. Lots of terrific writers and teachers. We are absolutely thrilled that they agreed to participate in this little experiment that we're having this year. And I think you're going to be really, really glad that you tuned in. So over the next 2 days, we're going to have a series of presentations and workshops from some of the best writers and teachers working today. And as you're watching them, we encourage you to post comments and ask questions. And some of those questions are going to be tossed over to the presenters and they're going to answer them for you. So please feel that you can interact as much as you can. Also, because it's going to be such a good program, I think that you should get comfortable. I think you should get a good chair. You should have some coffee or tea or beverage of your choice and a notebook and some pens within hand's reach, because you're not going to want to miss a minute of what we have to offer this weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jason, you got anything to say, buddy?
Yeah, I want to say hi again, and thanks for showing up, everybody. It's super exciting. We have an early bird offer that I just want to mention now. We'll remind you about this over the course of the weekend, but we have partnered up with some hotels for next year's conference. So if you would like to join us on Sanibel Island for this conference next year, you can go to our website. It's fgcu.edu/SIWC. And there are links all over there to get you to our registration page. Several Sanibel Island hotels are often offering discounts if you book a hotel with them during our early bird window, which will just be open for a week starting right now. And then we also have a discounted registration fee. So it's $100 off your registration. So you can register for next year's conference, the 2021 conference, for just $450. So you can find all of that information on our website, and you should be able to see it on all of the social channels too. There should be links for that stuff. So if you get excited, like I always do during the conference, and when you listen to people like Andrea and Allison who are coming up next, they always make me want to go just like write all the things. Then sign up. It's a good deal, great discount. And yeah, we're ready to kick it off. I want to give the writing class radio ladies as much time as they need to start getting the juices flowing. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to pass it back over to you, Tom.
All right. Thanks, Jason. And did you say that there's a discount, an early bird special?
I did. There's an early bird special.
That's terrific. So hopefully people are going to take advantage of that. And as you said, that offer is going to be open for a week from today until Halloween. So that's terrific.
Yes.
So yes, we are thrilled to be kicking things off with our good friends, Andrea Askowitz and Allison Langer. And there they are. They're popping in.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hey guys, good to see you.
Hey, guys. It's great to be
Sorry
here.
that we're not hanging out in person, but it's great to see you guys here. And thank you for participating in this and for kicking things off for us. I know it's going to be great. Andrea and Allison are the founders and hosts of Writing Class Radio, and we've been partnering with them for the last few years. It's a very popular and entertaining podcast. And they also are involved in lip service. They're both terrific writers, and their specialty is storytelling. So today they're going to be talking about how to tell your true personal story. So without further ado, let's kick it over to Andrea and Allison. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Andrea, go first.
Well, I am so excited. I always feel like so honored and excited and sort of like, what? Like, thank my lucky stars that I get to be at Sanibel. And it is such a bummer that we're not live because I love hugging all these people and it always feels like a party, but it still feels like a party. Like Jason and Tom are so much fun. So anyway, thank you guys for having us. And yes, you're here for true personal stories with Andrea, that's me, and Allison. And we're with Writing Class Radio.
And if you haven't tried our podcast or listened to our podcast, please check it out because it's tons of free advice on writing. We air true personal stories and submitted from anyone. We hope you all will submit. Our submission guidelines are on the website. And then Andrea and I kind of, have a little commentary around that. And there's always a writing point, something to help your writing. And for people who aren't into writing, it's good for writing emails. It's good for telling stories. I mean, it's just, we don't chit chat for too long, but we really want to bring great stories to you. And actually we have tons of classes and we want to tell you all about that. But first we want to dive into this class.
So let's get people to start writing their mind. Like, how do you find your story? So before we tell them how to edit their stories, let's actually do an exercise. So if you're listening, I want you all, everyone, I'm going to do it too. Allison's going to do it. This is the Writing Class Radio method for getting to your story. We have a few different ways of getting to your story, but the first thing I want us to do is just, I'm going to time you for 1 minute, 2 minutes. It's going to go really fast. So write as fast as you can. And I just want you to write down everything you're obsessed with. Got it? Things you love, things you hate, things that you just can't stop thinking about. Ready? Go. Stop.
I'm so glad you said stop because I was stumped.
That was just like 30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, typically in some of our classes, what we do is we like to start with a prompt and we have daily prompts on our website. So if you sit down to write and you're like, I don't know what to write about, just look up a prompt. You can scroll until something hits you. And then you just write. You write like crazy. You don't think too much. You just let it all just flow onto the page with really no editing.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So that's, so I think I kind of feel like we have 3 different ways to come up with a story. And one is to write your obsessions and they change. So that's why I wrote mine right now. And I want to know what yours are, Allison. Also, mine your pain. That's another way to get to your stories. And that sounds like it's not fun, but if you're really hurting about something, it's so good for you and good for a story to write it, just to sit down, time yourself for 10 minutes and write. The other way to like create lists of things to write about are things you don't understand. That's another, like, what are you obsessed with? What don't you understand? Just write them down. Like, I don't understand high heels. I just don't. So maybe I should write about that. And then the last way that Allison mentioned is to write to a prompt. And we have writing prompts at writingclassradio.com and we have them on Twitter. So you can find them daily. Okay, so what are you obsessed with? What was your list?
So my list is my health, because as you know, and anyone who listens to our podcast knows that I just finished a year of like treatment for ovarian cancer and I'm doing great and everything's good. But I'm like obsessed with trying to like find out about health, how health goes wrong, the health ups and downs and all the tips on staying healthy. So I'm super obsessed with health, my dad's health. Now my dad is going through cancer. So now I'm obsessed with his health, house renovations, because I'm renovating a house. So like, that's all I can think about. like my 3 kids, their development, like what am I doing to screw them up and how can I do it better? So I was listening to a great podcast by Sam Harris today. So that it was like on my mind. Friendship in general, like who we choose as our friends, who we keep as our friends. Just life's ups and downs, like how we're strolling along and then all of a sudden there's like a bam. And then how do you recover from that? And who recovers and who doesn't? So that's kind of been on my mind a lot. Family, like what family means and how family functions and what family is for, like when we're struggling, who comes to our aid and who can we help and stuff like that. So that's sort of on my mind. And then just time in general, what's going on with time? How is time flying? Once you turn 50, 51, 52, you start going, oh God, we're running out of time. So all these things have been on my mind. What about you?
Wait, I want to ask you, which on your list do you least want to write about? Like which one is just like, ugh?
I mean, I feel like I've written about my health so much that if I have to tell one more person I had cancer, I'm just like, oh, I can't stand to deal with it anymore. So maybe that one. I don't know. I'm tired of writing about cancer.
Well, so I always ask that, right? Like we always ask that, which on your list, which thing do you not want to touch? And that's probably the one that you should touch because there's probably a story in there. Like, why are you so sick of it? There's something underneath that. I mean, there's the obvious, like you're sick of it, but why? So that's a good one. That's the one you should write about later.
Okay.
If I were your editor, that's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Mine are the election.
Ugh.
I know, sorry. Coffee, sleep, attention, and the way the world is so divided.
Yeah.
Just like, I can't stop thinking about the now.
So now once you have this list, you want to go to our top tips and you want to start asking yourself. We want them to circle the one that they don't want to write about.
Right. Set a timer.
Yeah.
And just write. Just get it out onto the page, into your computer. Why are you laughing?
No, because I skipped that. That's like the most basic step. But yeah, people forget about that part. So
the writing part. The writing part. And I am a firm believer in oh my God, Liz Marquardt's here. She's one of our students. I just saw that. I'm a firm believer in writing without editing, without thinking about any tips, without anything at all, except your devotion or your commitment to getting to your truth. That's the first step. That's draft 1. And it might take longer than 10-minute writing prompt. It might take 20 or an hour or 2 hours or 10 hours or days. But first write everything about whatever topic you're going for and let your mind just go without editing. Once you have that draft down, then we get into our tips. And so tip 1, tech. We have tech support. We're waiting. Tech support works. Okay. Tip 1. Did you guys see how that popped up? That's Sanibel for you. Okay. Ground the reader. What does that mean?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I was reading the comments also on the side. So First of all, like sometimes people want to like jump into the story and it's like in the middle of a story and you're kind of trying to figure out like where, what, when, how, like you're trying to figure out what they're talking about. And it's much more helpful if it right at the top, you ground the reader with who, what, when, and where. You can save the why to the very end because that's what this whole essay is going to be about. You trying to find the why. Why are you writing this? Why, did you go through this? Why would anybody care? So all these whys that come up, we're going to get there in the arc of the essay.
Right. So the beginning is something that I actually learned this from Steve Amon, who is teaching later today. And his whole thing is like, get your reader in the car. Tell them who they should care about right from the beginning. I want to stop and go back to a question that I just saw, which is how do you curb your self-editor? And it's a really good question. So I'm going to jump back. And this is what happens before you start editing with Ground the Reader. You cool. It's a question by Kimberly Spire. Oh, all right. So what you do is you practice. It is so hard. But the more you write, the more you write, the more you write, and just without trying to stop editing, the better you'll get at it. And I'll just tell you that I've been writing to prompts for 20 years. And sometimes I am so in my head editing that I'm like, yee! But other times I just like hit a flow and I just write without editing. So just practice. That's my best advice.
I mean, I want to also address that question is that sometimes you have an idea. Some people work that way. They kind of know where it's going at the end. And so if you see yourself going off on a tangent and it doesn't work towards what this story is about, your end, like sort of where you're going, well, then you can go ahead and not write. No, don't go there. Don't go down. Don't take that turn. But if you're unsure of what this story is really about, then that's where you just keep writing. You can go off on tangents and come back and just keep going because you never know which tangent is going to take you to the place that is going to give you what the meat of your story is really about.
And if you allow yourself to just write and like waste time, I don't think it's a waste of time, and just follow your tangents, you might come up with a different story that you weren't expecting. So just go for it without worrying about it.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Oh, I hope I answered the question to Keyshawn. Yeah. Because if you do know, go for it. Like just get rid of those tangents. Thank you.
Oh, is it okay if you don't have that answer before you write? Like say you're a writer and you jump from topic to topic with no real meaning behind them. I say, yes, it is okay.
It's okay in this first draft. But when you get to the next draft and the next draft and you start trying to figure out, well, what is this story about? Then you're going to have to get rid of some other stuff that's confusing because each essay is going to have like one main central theme. Don't you think, Andrea? Like, what is this essay about?
Yeah. So and we're going to get to that later in the tips. Yeah.
Yeah. But your memoir might be a big collection of different stories that you're putting in there or whatever. But this particular essay is not going to have something that's going to be like, too many things to occupy the mind to distract us from what this particular essay is about.
But this question is about whether or not it's okay to not know where you're going at the start of your writing process. I will say that some people disagree with the writing class radio method. Joyce Maynard, who's speaking today at 7, she and I fight about this all the time. She thinks, and she is a great, brilliant, one of the best writers and teachers. She thinks that it's better to know exactly where you're going with the story because she thinks it's hard to you get married to your ideas. But in the writing class radio method, we're all about cutting your ideas out. So you have to get used to editing. But this is the way I've always done it. I write as discovery.
Yeah.
So
Kanan Chambliss asked about storylines, and he's right. Or she. It's like you're going to branch off, and you may end up with storylines from, to get new stories here and there down the road. And that is perfect. I mean, that is what we do in our first draft class. We just do exactly what we're saying. The second draft class is really meant to like try to focus on one thing. And final draft is also like narrowing in on exactly what that's about. But we love tangents, but not in like a final
draft.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our next point. Write like you speak.
Write like you speak. So this is probably the most important because it's the tip that kind of gets to the essence of why we write it all, which is to tell the truth. And if we're not writing the way we speak, then we're not being authentic to ourselves. One tip for how to get yourself to this is really meant for people who, and I do this all the time. Like I get to writing and then suddenly I'm like, writerly, like I feel like, oh, I'm writing and like henceforth and thus like creep in. And if you're not a professor and you're not the Queen of England, don't say henceforth. I
always try to expand my thesaurus. Like I hit the thesaurus and try to find really good words. And I think that's okay if those are words that you would use. You're just reminding yourself. But if you're starting to use like weird words that you would never use, then no one's buying that.
And I do that. And then you're like, I do that. And Allison's like, what? What word is this? I've never heard you say this. One way to really help you get to your authentic voice is when you're writing a story is to literally address it to a person as if it's a letter. Like sometimes I write my stories like, Dear Allison. So yesterday, da, la, 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 la. And then if I'm writing to Allison, I'm not going to use words that are just like above my head just to be cute and sound smart. I'm not going to do that. So no need to do that. Doing
and
that
somebody said you can say it out loud. We always recommend reading it out loud, because when you hear yourself say something, you're gonna be like, ooh. Or if somebody else is listening, they're gonna be like, that's not you. So try it out on people, or even on nobody.
Right. All right. Let's go to tip number 3.
Oh yeah, I love this one. Yeah, omit needless words. I mean, can we throw travel plans in this one too?
Yeah, that's when you're writing stuff that doesn't really fit into the story. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I thought about going to the store and buying, but I don't know. And then when I got in my car, I thought, well, gosh, the car is hot. And then I thought, no, maybe I should go back in and get it like what? Who cares about all that? You got to the store, you bought the milk, you came home. That's enough. I mean, probably even that's too much.
Yeah.
Just get to the point.
The thing about write like you speak and then omit needless words, I know that they are a bit of a contradictory sometimes, because some people are long-winded. And so it's up to you, the narrator, us, to strike that balance between like boring your reader to death with travel plans. No one cares about what Allison just said. And unless it's relevant to the story, like, the heat of the car, but probably not. So you have to strike that balance between what the story needs and what is true to your voice. But I actually love this one.
Huh? Somebody said an oral storyteller I know is now trying to write. He doesn't have facial expression and hands for use of emphasis. It frustrates him. So he doesn't think he can write like he speaks. Any tips? Andrea?
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm like sort of... why he doesn't have hand. Okay, you don't need hands or facial expression, really. Like your words can tell. So words are the most important thing. So he can write like he speaks because he's using words to speak. Did that answer that question?
And I want to use an example from class. There's a class and there's a girl in the first, a woman in my first draft class who's awesome. She's a great writer, but when she reads what she's written, it throws me off because she's putting in too much of her personality, which is great, but I want to be able to read it on the page and understand her personality. So for me, it even detracts from it. So I say, if you can get your point across with words and how you normally speak, then it's even better. That's my personal opinion.
I agree. Exactly. That's probably a stage kind of preference, but I agree. And my training is to write to stories that are meant to be told out loud. And I always prefer less emphasis. And I prefer this on the page too. Less omit needless words is it's the perfect little phrase because it is the most succinct it can be. And I think that's true with out loud on the page. I mean, that sentence could have been, take out the words that you don't need because you're going to, need to repeat words that you've already said. Like, that's like what? That's like 12 words instead of 3.
And by the way, Meg Pollen is in the house, and she said that this is the hardest thing for her because if she writes like she speaks, it's going to take forever to get to her point. Okay. That's a big fat lie because I've heard her stories and they're very succinct. And what it takes is hours and hours and hours of going over and going, oh, I don't need this. Oh, let me say this differently. And also sending it to a friend who can be your editor. I mean, you're only capable of seeing things one way sometimes, especially when you've gone over it and over it. And that's the importance of finding somebody to read your stuff. So getting into these classes and making friends with fellow writers and exchanging is invaluable. So I couldn't recommend it more.
Cool. Yeah.
Eduardo. Oh my God.
I hope that we explained to omit needless words. It works on a micro level, on the sentence level, and it works at a macro level. Take out stuff in your story that you don't need that doesn't serve the story. And we'll get to that again when we're talking about what's the story about. Okay. Yeah. Tip number 4. like what?
Oh, I love this one. Okay, so like what means like sometimes people go, oh, I had a big dinner. Like what? Or I'm having so many problems in my life right now. Like what? I want to know the deep, dark details, like not the stuff you tell at the cocktail party. Like I want to know more than that. I want to know everything about that. So sometimes they will take you on a tangent, but the goal and the work of the writer is getting that again back to a spot, a place where it's just enough detail to be able to explain to the listener, the reader, exactly what you're trying to say so we get an idea.
So like what is a reminder to you, the narrator, to ask yourself, like what, and put in specific details.
Yes. All right. And
number 5, should we
omit leadless words while you're getting that? Cassidy Skipper asked, would this be similar to Kill Your Darlings? Write Like You Speak to Me is not really necessarily about Kill Your Darlings.
That's what omitting needless words is.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to kill your darlings to get to what you're really trying to say and not extra.
Yeah. And the tangents too. Yeah. Okay. Show and tell. Go. You.
So I've taken a million writing classes, and there used to be this kind of idea that you show, don't tell. And that means, and the reason why teachers emphasize showing is because the showing is the taking the reader to a scene. It's really creating a movie of whatever it is you're writing about. The telling is the inside the head part. But what we think at Writing Class Radio is that writing a story is unique and awesome in that it's not just a movie. It's a movie with voiceover, which doesn't work that well in a movie, but it really works on the page. So you can bring someone to a scene and like describe the scene and also describe how you, the narrator, are feeling during that scene.
A couple people are asking, like, how do you know when you're sharing too much?
Do they mean, okay, how do you determine what to and what not to include in your writing to keep it from being overbearing? Let's go to tip number, since a lot of people are asking that. Tech, can we do this? Can we skip to tip number 9? Because this is what it's about. What is the story about? So once you start on writing to a prompt, for example, and you might not know what your story is about right away, but it will emerge. Something will emerge like, okay, I have an example. I'm going to give a real true life example. When I was standing under the chuppah, telling my vows, I was delivering my vows to the woman I love, the woman I married, in the middle of the most important speech of my life. My 80-year-old uncle, who was in the audience, fell to the ground. And right in the middle of my vows. So for years after that, I would tell people like, yeah, oh my God, like I just got married, but you won't believe what happened. Like my uncle died. He came back to life. I will tell you that. He came back to life. So he died and came back to life. And people would say like, you should write about that. And I was like, well, what is there? Why? Like, why? Like, you know what? That's the story. Like, I'm done. That's the whole story. And it took me a few years of like telling the anecdote, which is that the situation, uncle died, came back to life during my vows. It took years for me to sort of figure out what that story was about. And what the story is about is different than what happened in the moment. What the story is about is, why am I telling this story? And all of this has to do with what to cut or keep in a story. So when I figured out that, so one of my obsessions, which I listed, is attention. I was starting to see that a lot of the things that I was writing about, like that I had this theme going over and over again, that I like attention. Surprise! I'm a memoir writer. Okay, so I realized that while I was telling my vows which mattered so much to me, and someone died in the middle of my vows, like the story became a story about stolen attention. And you know what? It was a fucking bummer in the middle of that happened to me in the middle of my vows. And that's the story that I ended up telling. So everything else that I may have brought up in that story that didn't serve that conclusion, that Andrea's attention was stolen during her vows, gets cut from the story.
Like,
I mean, there's a lot of great details that I want to include.
Like stuff like, oh, my uncle had like red hair and he was the only redhead in the family. And then, but we were wondering if other people would have, like, that is not appropriate for this story.
Right. And some of that stuff may have come out in the drafting of the story and come out on the page, and then it got cut out.
Yeah.
And then other stuff had to come into the story. Like the detail that it was the most important speech in my life, and that I worked with a woman who is English Spanish, because my wife is Venezuelan. And so I worked with a friend of mine. She was the only person that had heard my vows before, because I wrote them in English and in Spanish and practiced them for weeks. So all of that information comes in, because that builds the stakes for why it mattered and why, like, they were important to me, that moment, that speech. And then I called it a speech even. So that detail feeds into what the story is ultimately about, which is stolen attention.
And
that's how you figure it out.
Sometimes I ask like my students and stuff like, well, how did this particular situation impact you? How did it change your life? How did it change who you are? Because if there's no bigger point to the situation, then it's just a situation.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And somebody was asking too, like, how do you know if you're telling too much? So I think we've explained that if it doesn't, contribute to what the story's about. But like some of the details, like if I'm telling a cancer story and I'm telling you like what happened with, my sleep and my stomach and this and that, okay, it appears to be something that might be important, like the nitty gritty details. But then it depends on what the story is going to be about, whether or not we want the nitty gritty details. If those apply, you go nittiest and grittiest. Like you can go deep, deep, deep. Tell us about, what's the one you always tell about your yeast infection in the boy that you dated or something? Okay, so then it's important, right? And it's a gross little thing, but it's
so wait, how was that? So the time that I had a yeast infection, so I didn't fool around with this really cute guy in high school, and then I wrote him a letter to then I wrote him a letter,
and then I had a friend who read the letter and she killed the letter. She killed my darling. Thank you, my friend Beth, for killing my darling and saving me from the humiliation of sending that letter. But wait, how's that relevant? Why'd you make me?
Somebody said, can you ever basically say too much? And I think sometimes you can.
But is it relevant in the story? Yeah.
I mean, but then sometimes you can still cut it. It's your decision. As a writer, you've got to sit there and you got to make your own decision. So even sometimes Andrea will send me something to edit and I'll be like, oh, cut. And then I'll see it in like print. And I'm like, you didn't even listen to me. And she's like, I thought you were wrong. So it's okay.
But you should always listen to your editors.
But it's your decision. It's the writer's decision. Okay, wait.
Oh my God, Tech wants us to move on.
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
I wanted to say one thing. Shit, I forgot. Okay, create a vulnerable narrator.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I wanted to say this about saying too much. I think it was Cheryl Strayed who says, like, don't lift your skirt just to lift your skirt. No, never do that. Like, only lift your skirt if it's relevant to the story.
Yeah. That's
okay, good. Create a vulnerable narrator. That's when it's important to lift your skirt sometimes.
Yeah. We love a vulnerable narrator. Because we always say that you have to be the biggest asshole in your story. Because if you're calling other people out or ranting or something like that, but you're not vulnerable, you're not really going deep and noticing how you've contributed to a situation or opening up beyond the cocktail conversation, then you're not being vulnerable enough and no one's going to care. What's the lady you love that always says you have to say the things that you don't want to say?
And she's like, say that. Yeah. Who was it? Someone named Anne.
We're
Sorry.
so bad.
What?
We'll remember
Yeah.
and come back to it. But it's true. You have to say the things that you don't want to say. Like, when I'm writing about my son and some of the problems that we have, if I'm not willing to tell you, like, I screamed at him and I said this and it was really ugly, then the whole time I'm going to sound like some self-righteous bitch and no one's going to want to listen to the story and they're not buying it anyway. So you have to get vulnerable.
And this goes back to writing the truth, write like you speak. This is the reason that we write stories and read stories. It's to connect on a level that's vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable in your story, even if you admit stuff that's not cool or not, like that you yelled at your kid or that you had a yeast infection and then wrote a letter about it and tried to send it to some guy, like that, those are the moments that readers connect to. And that's the whole reason that we write anyway, to figure out why we did that dumb, stupid stuff.
It wasn't Anne Lamott. It was like Mary somebody.
It wasn't Anne. It wasn't Anne Lamott. It was, I'll think of it.
Okay. What are the stakes? I love that they keep putting them up while we talk too much. This is why we have a really good audio.
Relax, Tech. We got it. Okay.
What are the stakes? Why does anyone care about your story? People send this to us and ask us this all the time. Am I writing about something people will care about? And I love your answer.
My answer?
Yes.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Is that my answer?
I do. I like that. I mean, if it's something that matters to you, but it's also important to like try to figure out how to say it a little bit differently. Like if you've read 1,700 books on marriage, why is your book going to be different? If you're trying to, from a marketing perspective, I mean, you can write it no matter what, but we want to know what the stakes are. That is why people care. Like you almost lost your family, you almost lost your life. You know, like why does this story matter to you? And then we understand why it matters to other people and what the stakes are.
Hold on. What?
Did I say that backwards? Mary
I don't know, because
Carr?
now I'm trying to think of who's the Anne.
I'm sorry. No, I don't think it was Mary Carr either.
It was Anne who wrote, I was trying to write in the chat, but I'm not good enough at doing two things.
I don't even know how to write it with that.
She's the one who's written more modern love stories than anyone. Does anyone know who that is? Okay, where were we?
Is it possible that too much vulnerability can diminish the reader's ability to be empathetic? I don't think so. Do you?
No, I don't think so. Never heard that.
Mm-mm. All right, you love this one, and I love it too. But you're really good with this.
So this is a very good tip for writing to the ear, for writing out loud. It works for everything, but it's basically the idea is to end your sentences and your paragraphs and your story on the strongest note. And I was thinking about jokes do this. Jokes omit needless words really, really well. So I have a few jokes to try out on you, Allison. And this
okay, wait, can you stop? Can I just put the punchline in? The person who just put Anne Hathaway just did the punchline. Anne Hood! Yes!
Anne Hood. It's Anne Hood.
I love the person who just said Anne Hathaway. That's hysterical. Okay, sorry, go. Tell your joke.
Okay. Yeah, it's Anne Hood. And Anne Hood says, say the thing you don't want to say. Okay. I don't trust those trees. You got to say why.
Why?
They seem kind of shady.
Oh, that's cute.
Okay. Here's another one. Why do you tell actors to break a leg?
I don't know why.
Because every play has a cast.
Oh, yeah, that's cute. I like the
one more. Oh, okay. Helvetica and New Times Roman walked into a bar. The bartender yells, "Get out of here. We don't serve your type."
That's cute. But see how it ended on type and it ended on the punchline. So that's what we're trying to say.
It ends on the word that we need. Like, it wouldn't have been funny. It wouldn't have been as funny to say, "Get out of here." We don't serve that. We don't serve your type, so get out of here. In that example there, it's buried. The punchline, the note, the strength of the sentence is buried if you turn it around. What?
Eduardo said, please don't tell the chicken joke. And I don't want you telling that either. That's on our podcast. They'll have to find that one.
God, now I want to tell it. It's my favorite. It's so good.
Oh,
please let me tell it.
All right. While they put up the next, what was the tiny pebbles only wish? Just that she was a little bolder. Oh, that's cute. But see how it ends on the word you need. I love it.
It ends on the word you need. And sometimes it's easy to look at a sentence and transpose it. Like just turn it around so that it ends on the note you need. Number 10, read the stories that you're working on out loud. Absolutely. Great tip. Oh, we came up with it. But yeah, that's a great tip. And then there's one more of tip. We have 10 tips that are really 11. Edit. Write and rewrite. And rewrite. And
getting into a writing class, any kind. I mean, seriously, I hate to promote, but I've been told I'm a terrible self-promoter. But the Tuesday live online writing class is at 12 to 1 Eastern time. It's $25 a month, and it's just Patreon support. And literally, you jump on and you can meet other people, and groups can form. You know, you can.
Wait, let me do it. Okay, Writing Class Radio has a ton of resources for you, including live classes that you can jump on. I want you guys to do something right now. We're giving away, Writing Class Radio is giving away a free publishing guide. So open up if you want it, and if you want to know what's coming up next, like when a new podcast is coming out and what classes we have to offer, please open up a new window. Go to writingclassradio.com and just put your name in and sign up, and you will get a free publishing guide that'll tell you like where you should send your stories based on what your story is about. It's really excellent. And also, if you want, put your email in the writingclassradio.com. Put your email in the chat, and we will tell you what's next. And I promise you, I'm the one who sends out the e-blast, and I suck at it, and I do it like once every other month. So you're not going to get overwhelmed, but you will find out when we have a new episode and when we have calls for submissions and how you can join our writing classes, like the one that Allison was talking about, which is every Tuesday Eastern at noon.
Yeah, if you guys want to put your emails in the chat, that's great. We would love it. We'll copy them down. And you can always get in touch with us at info@writingclassradio.com and just send us your emails. That would be great. And then we'll include you. We'll let you know like when things are coming up and all that. So, or if you want to submit, we love submission.
Sometimes we have specific calls like for a specific subject, but we're always open to true personal stories, 1,200 words or fewer. And those stories get on our show. We have time for one more question. That's it. Any one more question? If we're already on your email list, how can we get the publishing guide? Email info@writingclassradio or Andrea@writingclassradio.com, and I will send you the private, it's like a secret password. Very secret. You guys, thank you for being here, and stay tuned for all the awesome storytellers and writing classes, all genres that are coming next, all day today and tomorrow.
Okay, they want the chicken joke.
Okay, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Oh no, I fucked it up.
Start again.
What?
Do it again.
Believe it. Okay. Why did the chicken cross the road?
I don't know.
You do. Come on. This is
why I blocked it out. I hate this joke. I don't even get the damn joke. Okay, what is it?
No, you're supposed to say to get to the other side. Okay, let's start.
Start again. Start again.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
To get to the other side.
No, to get to your house. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
The chicken.
Okay, I warned you guys. I warned you guys. Okay, so now let us know if you think that joke was funny.
That joke is so funny.
It's not laughing.
No one's laughing? Oh.
Well,
all right. We fucked it up twice.
Website again for the guide is writingclassradio.com. Kia Steele. Oh my, see, I knew it. I know my people. So bad. Jennifer Yance Orlando.
What do you mean?
Bad joke, Mr. Nova.
The delivery was funny. Thank you, Macy. Jill Stoddard laughed out loud. That is a funny joke.